is the
Hello, you're welcome to this week's edition of the Magnate. Today we shall be focusing on structural engineering. Have you been affected directly or indirectly to the high rate of collapse building in Nigeria? Yes, it doesn't really matter where it happens. When one is affected, it's all that feels the pinch. We have somebody who has been advocating that for a very long time. He is an advocate, an entrepreneur, and a professional to the core. Who are we talking about? Well, permit me to say that yes, he was a one-time president of Nigeria Institution of Structural Engineers. Yeah. So let's give you his citation, and then you will know that this program is bound to be a loaded one today. We'll be back shortly to commence our conversation.
Engineer Dr. S.K. Ilugbekhai, FNSE, FNICE, FNISE, FNITHE is an accomplished civil and structural engineer. A graduate of Osi College, Warri, and the University of Benin, he furthered his education with postgraduate studies at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and the University of Lagos, Nigeria. S.K. Ilugbekhai is a fellow of multiple engineering institutions and a registered member of Koren. He has served the engineering profession in Nigeria with passion and distinction, most significantly as national president of the Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers, 2013 to 2015. His expertise spanned landscape architecture, civil and structural design, geotechniques, deep foundations, project finance, and comprehensive contract administration with landmark projects across Nigeria. To this end, in recognition of his professional dexterity, engineer S.K. Ilugbekhai was honored in 2019 as one of the outstanding Nigerian professional engineers of the decade and inducted into the 2021 into the Nigeria's Construction Industry Hall of Fame. A tireless advocate against building collapse, he continued to dedicate his time, talent, and treasure to advance engineering excellence, and this contribute to economic growth in Nigeria. S.K. Ilugbekhai is a distinguished past president of Rotary Club of Ketu District 9110. He is also a distinguished past president of the prestigious Esako Club 81, the Noble Club of Esako Indigenes in Edo North, Nigeria.
You're welcome back to the program. Permit me to welcome a former past president of the Nigeria Institution of Structural Engineer, Engineer Dr. Samuel Kegbe Ilugbekhai. SK Ilugbekhai, you're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Nice to have you finally. Now, structural engineer, right? We've been seeing you on TV advocating for a lot of things, particularly when there's any collapse building. You're always very, in the forefront of saying this is what should have been done, this is what. Now, let's know what exactly is structural engineering.
Thank you very much, madam, for the opportunity. Structural engineering is an area of specialization in the overall civil engineering family, which deals with the design and development of structurally stable buildings and non-building structures which are robust, strong enough to stand throughout their entire design life, and such structures are expected to be resilient, sustainable, and economical.
Interesting. I love that your preamble. What I can bring out from there is not even just habitable facility, even the road, other facilities. Is that correct?
Yes, you have bridges, you have communication towers, you have dams, you have culverts, you have any form of structure.
Any form of construction.
Yes, your swimming pool,
wow,
your water towers,
really,
your telecommunication towers,
interesting.
All that.
Okay.
Even your airport signal towers, they are all structural engineering elements. Even the chair you are sitting on is a structural engineering element.
Wow. All right, interesting. A lot of arms to our conversation today. Now let's look at the practice itself, the profession. You went to school to study as an engineer, bagging out with a Bachelor of Science with plus up to a doctorate. Now, anybody who wants to, because we call this program mentoring on television, anybody who is thinking of, oh, that's my mentor, I want to be like him. What are those first steps he should be thinking of to say, okay, in future I want to be a structural engineer?
Yes, to come into structural engineering as a practitioner, taking it from the secondary school level, you have to major in the sciences. You gain admission into the university to study civil engineering.
Okay.
It is upon graduating from civil engineering, you come into the field to practice. As a civil engineer, you can be a water engineer, you can be a geotechnical engineer. In other words, as a structural engineer, you are continuously on duty as long as a structure is standing. The structural engineer is continuously on duty as a structure is standing.
Wow.
So if it's a building, a tall building, for instance, you don't sleep. If there's going to be wind, your mind will go there. I have this structure in this place. Hope this wind is not going to affect it and all that. For every structure that is standing, the structural engineer is continuously on duty for the entire duration of the life of that structure. Let me put it this way. Even when other professionals have discharged their responsibilities and gone to rest, the structural engineer is continuously at work because it is his responsibility to ensure that that structure keeps standing, irrespective of whatever happens. You see it. So, and the higher the structure, of course, the greater the risk.
Because you have been an advocate of all these failure rates, as it were, and you are a past president of Nigerian Institution of Engineers, we just thought that we should focus on structural engineering, which you have been lending a voice to.
Yes.
And from all the advocacy you've been having, what do you think is responsible for this high failure rate? It wasn't this bad. Is it lack of ethics? Is it lack of professionals living up to their expectation, or from your research?
Yes, the reality is that the rate of collapse of buildings in Nigeria has assumed a worrisome proportion. It is not like that in other parts of the world. Even in some other parts of Africa, a collapse of buildings or collapse of structures is not as rampant as it is here in Nigeria. You see, anything short of the competent and qualified practice of structural engineering, you will have collapse. So, a collapse-free environment in Nigeria is only possible the day we choose to practice structural engineering competently.
From what I can get from that, in the team of construction, when you have a project you want to construct, apparently it's the structural engineer that is more or less the head of the team, right?
Yes. Now, if you say we call it the built environment, there are 7 basic professionals involved in the built environment.
Good.
Starting from the architect. But I'll simplify it. You see, among these 7 built professionals in the built environment, it is the primary duty of the structural engineer to create the frame, the bone that carries the structure. The skeleton, that carries the structure, just like a human being. You have your flesh on your skeleton. You understand me? So it's the structural engineer that does that. And that is why whenever there is a collapse, you hardly hear other professionals being called. No, it is the structural engineer that is called to come and explain what happened. And that was why I explained initially that for as long as the structure is standing, the structural engineer is continuously on duty. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say this structure was done 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and all of a sudden today, a part of it came down. You understand me? The structural engineer will be called to duty. The government will go check who was the structural engineer who designed the structure, what happened, how come it has come down. No other person is going to be called because that is the area of core competence of the structural engineer.
Now let's look at your job being put to test here. Since you have to work with other professionals as the lead team, how do you ensure that you recruit or you get professionals like the surveyors, the other people that need to make your job good? And like I said, are there sanctions when there's failure in all of these things?
Now, within the built environment, professional roles and responsibilities are clearly defined. The role of the architect is different from the role of the structural engineer, is different from the role of the land surveyor, is different from the role of the quantity surveyor, is different from the role of the mechanical engineer, is different from the role of the electrical engineer, and so on. So if a client is going to engage professionals for a particular development, he has to engage them according to these roles. Now, we as structural engineers, you do not have the prerogative of dictating to the client who he or she should engage.
Okay. But you can advise.
No, because you may not necessarily be aware. It is, for instance, after an architect has been engaged, he has done his job, say, oh, which structural engineer do we give to?
Before.
So the structural engineer is not at the forefront of engagement. It is after something has been done and the services now is required, and then he's now engaged. Of course, if he has come, before then, for instance, the land surveyor would have surveyed the land already for the client.
True.
You understand me? The architect would have done a concept for the client. And then if it requires the structural engineer's input, that they will now say, okay, we need a structural engineer. Which structural engineer can we engage now?
Okay.
In fact, if anything, if there's even an issue of who to choose, it is others who will say, okay, this structural engineer is preferable for this kind of a job.
Okay, so we are talking about this, and we know that a lot of people, they say, structural engineers, they are very expensive. Let me just give my building to bricklayer. Let me give to side, those that have implication.
Of course, it's the case of being penny wise, pound foolish. If you are going to undertake the development that will make you spend some money, a fraction of it going into professional fees does not in any way impact on you, because it is the professionalism that these professionals bring into your proposed development that will make your development start. If irrespective of who the professional is in the built environment, not just the structural engineer. Let's take it from the beginning, the land surveyor. And you may as well say, oh, land surveyors are expensive. You go and give your land to an omonile to do for you. You will pay the price. Oh, architects are expensive. Oh, I will design this building by myself. Not a problem. That's why you see some buildings where they'll go and put a door at second floor level. No staircase to come out of it.
Wow. That's a catchy one.
Or you say, okay, the structural engineers are expensive. Oh, I will do it by myself. No problem. You go and do it, and then along the line, you run into consequences. This same thing. Or is it the quantity survey you want to say is expensive? Run into the project. You feel that 10 million naira will do it for you. But before you go further, you discover that even 10 million naira cannot buy the cement. And then you begin to deal with an abandoned project from onset. So there is the need to engage every professional to discharge their professional responsibilities according to their areas of calling and specialization in the process of the development.
Thank you so much, Engineer Dr. S.K. Ilugbekhai. The program is still the Magnate. Let's go for a short break. When we come back, the conversation continues. Welcome back. The program is the Magnate. Our focus today is on structural engineering. And then, of course, by now, one way or the other, you must have been affected with building. If you have not built, somebody you know has been building, you live in a house, so you should be interested in what we are discussing today. And we have, as our guests, a former president of Institution of Structural Engineering in Nigeria. Dr. Engineer S.K. Ilugbekhai, you're welcome back to the program again.
Thank you very much.
So there's a pending question, sir. We have major projects. You have the likes of Julius Berger, these Chinese companies, and do you think, for your formidable force, your institution, do you have the competence to handle some of these large-scale projects?
Thank you very much for that question. There are three elements involved in answer to that. Number one is qualification. Number two is experience. And then number three is competence. It's one thing to be qualified. It's another thing to be competent.
That's what
you understand? So you have your qualification, you have your experience, and then you have the competence. If you want to add a fourth one, which is the moral disposition to want to discharge your responsibility equitably. In terms of competence, intellectual competence, experience, and even the moral disposition to want to deliver, yes, we are very much on ground. We have capable hands. Yes, we have capable hands, especially on the register of the Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers, of which I'm a past president. Capable hands. Nigerians who have designed all the tall structures that you have around and all that. But when it comes to field development of some of these kind of structures, because they are capital intensive and equipment intensive, not many of us have access to such. One, the funding. Two, the equipment and all that. You see, so that is where the we have a setback.
Some disparity.
Now, if it were possible for some kind of support to come from somewhere, I don't know, because maybe especially from the private sector, in maybe making those equipments available the way it is outside the shores of the country and all that. Yes, Nigerians can deliver. Yes. Okay. Because in terms of competence, qualification, intellectual capacity and all that, we have a lot. You see. But equipment, that equipment intensive side of it, the funding and all that, still needs to be worked upon. Even if it means coming together as a consortium to discharge certain responsibilities and all that. And I believe that is where to go.
I've just, created a poster for you to say how you can channel that so that we continue to empower and give more relevance and funding employment to Nigerians. I'm talking about Nigerians. Our practice of developmental broadcasting says that a country cannot be said to be developed when the rural community is left undeveloped.
Yes.
And you have epitomized that in a way that even in your diversification, and decided you are well traveled by the nature of your job, but you started from your roots in the area of creating wealth, creating jobs, creating employment for your people in Aginebude by going into hospitality before you even thought of Lagos where you live. You were not thinking of any commercial part. Like any comment on this? Am I correct?
Yes, you are very correct. The idea is very simple. We will not all live in urban areas. And as human beings, as patriotic citizens of the country, the economy will be overstretched in certain areas if we don't do something to checkmate rural-urban drift. And that is why we must go back to our various villages and communities and create meaningful engagement for the people, not just the youth, for our people, so that they can earn an income, because the poverty level is very, very high.
Yes.
So, by going back home to establish one business or the other, you are creating wealth directly where wealth is needed to be created. and you create possibility of positive economic engagement for the rural people. And what do they really need? Something just to keep body and soul together. Go to work, come back, enjoy their village life, and leave Lagos for Lagosians. So that's the very first concept. The second concept is we must do something to also create awareness and bring our various rural communities to the world map. Yes. Today, wherever you are in the world, you know that, yes, there's an SKI hotel in Agenebude.
Interesting. I opened the program that you're a man of many parts. Even in Christendom, in the religion realm, you have also played your parts. You are not one of those that, I have it, I must keep to myself. You are a knight of St. Lumumba, right?
Yes.
And ditto for your wife. So what is the drive? People say that those who have money have no business with religion and all of that. But I know for sure that your contribution to even the religious aspect is also as encouraging. You, on your own, donated the whole building or facilitated a whole building, even where you... And then you are even a community person.
Mm-hmm.
Because where you are, there was absolutely nothing there. You were part of those that developed this. So that's the essence of the interest that we focus on. Broadcasting, that's developmental broadcasting. You're always interested in developing your country. Any take on this?
Yes. By the grace of God, we are Catholics, myself and my wife.
Okay.
We really don't bring this to the public per se.
Talk is
but you have
humanity.
asked me, and I will dwell on it. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm a proud Catholic. My wife is a proud Catholic. My family is a Catholic family. And by the grace of God Almighty, we have given it the best shot we can. We belong to the Order of the Knights of St. Mulumba, Nigeria. And I was privileged to serve as the inaugural Grand Knight for Ajah Subordinate Council, of which my wife also was privileged to serve at the same simultaneously as the Lady President, as the inaugural Lady President of Ajah Subordinate Council. Our belief is that whatever we own does not really belong to us.
Good.
We are just holding for transit. Whatever comes our way belongs to God Almighty, and that is why we must return it back to Him in glory.
Okay.
So all those things you mentioned that we gave and all that belong to God. It's our simple belief.
It's an investment for you.
Yeah, it's our simple belief.
Congratulations, sir.
And we believe that we should actually do more.
A lot of people are complaining. There's a lot of downturn. What has worked for you? What resilience? What steadfastness? What focus has worked for you? We're in a session where you talk about how you were struggling, but you are here now. You are a former president of structural engineer. You handle projects nationwide. You're an entrepreneur, creating wealth for a lot of people. What has worked for you that you think other people can emulate so that they are okay and they stop this complaint and blame game?
Yeah. Thank you very much for this. This is very, very important, especially for our younger generation. First thing is to be ready, have knowledge, have qualifications, and be ready to favorably dispose of your talent, your time, and your treasure. Have an open mind, but above all, place God in the center of what you are doing. I live by God's divine providence, but I am ready to be used by God to render whatever purpose He has for me. I wake up every day waiting for God to fit me into His plan for me. I have my plans, but God's plans are His more superior plans. Where I am today, I'm not rich, but I'm not poor. The spirit of contentment is one major asset which God has given me. I remember when I used to pray to buy a Volkswagen. Yes, where people went with other cars, I went with my Volkswagen. I've told you the story of how I had a Skoda. When I appear with that Skoda at distant locations where they fix activities, see me physically on ground, they will still be asking me, SK, did you come? I say, yes, I came. After all, it's not my spirit you are seeing. They are tying me to the car that I was driving. So contentment, the spirit of contentment must be there. That lack of contentment is one of the major problems of this generation. You must cut your coat according to your cloth, not according to your size, according to your cloth. Be patient, work at it, trust God, believe in God, and the rest will be good.
Interesting. You have heard it. We've been chatting with engineer Dr. S.K. Ilugbekhai, a former president of Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineering, and he is also the group MD of SKI Group of Companies, which involves hospitality, construction, and all of that. We thank you so much for obliging us this interview, and I'm sure it has resonated with you. Let's do this again same time next week. Remember, you can watch this program again on our YouTube channel and follow us on our social media handles. This program is still open for sponsorship. If you like what we discussed today, make out time to partner with us. Just give us a call. I'll be glad you did. We also want you to lend a voice to any raging issue on this program. Until we come your way same time next week again. Bye for now.
We unfortunately lost engineer Dr. S.K. Ilugbekhai the same day this interview was granted. We therefore pray the Lord Most High to continue to rest his passionate soul in his heavenly abode for all eternity. Amen.